The headline, more women hold top corporate positions in Canada, so the glass ceiling is indeed being shattered. Report says numbers of executives in Canada increasing among females. More women hold top corporate positions than ever in Canada. New report coming from Rosenzweig and Company. This is their 8th annual report on this. They find that women in top executive jobs almost doubled compared with the company's first survey. We're joined by Jay Rosenzweig, managing partner of the group. They are a high-end global talent management firm focusing on critical, specialized executive searches. They're headhunters. They're headhunters for the kind of people who make for good COOs and CEOs. And Jay, thank you very much for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so when we say doubled since in the last 8 years?
Yes, that's right. We began this study 8 years ago. Basically what we do is we determine the 100 publicly traded companies in Canada with the highest revenue per year. In other words, the biggest companies in Canada on the stock market. And we go out and find documents related to each of these top executive officers and their compensation. All of these large companies must publicly disclose the compensation of their CEO, CFO, and the next 3 highest level compensated executive officers. So what we do is we look at the C-level of corporations basically and determine what percentage of these high-paid professionals are female. So the first year was 4.6%. We thought the numbers would be low, but we didn't realize how staggeringly low they'd be. And we decided to continue doing this for the long haul. And now in our 8th year, we see the numbers continue to climb steadily.
All right, so just roughly here, it was just under 1 in 20 8 years ago. 1 in 20 top corporate people were female.
That's correct.
That's a really shallow number. And now it's still not where a lot of people would like it to be, but 1 in 12, I guess, is a whole lot better than 1 in 20.
Well, that's exactly right, and we see phenomena all around us that are extremely positive. We see, for example, at Yahoo, Marissa Mayer being hired to turn around that business as a pregnant woman. We see COOs and CEOs of companies like Pepsi worldwide bringing on leaders who are diverse not only from a gender perspective but in other ways as well. And the numbers are up. Governments are mandating greater attention to this, and we're quite encouraged. We choose to see the glass as being half full, not half empty.
All right, now you're a headhunter.
Yes.
Are there qualities in a woman that you don't find in a man, or are the qualities you're looking for at the very top levels exactly the same, Jay?
Well, you know, my mother always told me, and my mother is probably the person I admire most in this world, that you need to listen to the women as our better half, and she says that one day the women are going to take over the world. So I hope that I've garnered a lot of credit so that I can cash in my chips when that happens.
All right, when women take over the world, will we have world peace and no more deficits and no more debt?
Well, I hope so. I do think that by nature, and one can never generalize because females are across a number of different personality traits and so are men, but if you were to generalize somewhat, I think that studies have shown that women tend to be a lot more conciliatory. Men have more to prove in terms of here's what I've done, here's who I am. Women just are. And the more we have that kind of diversity at the top, I think the greater the business results. And studies have shown over and over again that business results are better when there's diversity at the top, and the greater we'll all be for it.
So the stereotype of women being less confrontational in your headhunting career, do you find that to be accurate?
In my headhunting career, I would say that, again, one cannot generalize and paint everyone with such a broad brush, and there are times when one needs to put one's foot down to get to the very top and to make the tough choices and the tough decisions. But by their very nature, I think that the women of our world are probably more nurturing.
See, the women I study in soap operas, and you must admit, studying women in soap operas is a very, very smart way of doing social science. In those soap operas I watch, I mean, women are really catty. They're walking all over each other. They're behaving like a lot of guys I know.
Well, I choose not to watch cartoons. So, you know, at the end of the day, the point that we're making here is, A, as a moral imperative, any barriers to entry on whatever grounds are wrong. And secondly, from a business perspective, study after study has shown that the more diversity at the top, the more creativity, and the better the business results.
Let me ask you about the politics of this, if you want to go there. There are several governments in this world, including the Norwegian government, I guess, most famous. They actually impose quotas on companies. They tell companies they have to be somewhere around 50-50 at the top level. While I don't anticipate any government in this country doing that anytime soon, is it to the advantage of private sector firms that are dealing with government? Very often they are, because government is a great chunk of our so-called mixed economy. The government is your client, whether it's municipal or federal, provincial, whatever. Oftentimes you're dealing with the government and government agencies. Do you think it'll be to the advantage of corporations to have females representing their companies when dealing with governments of this country?
Well, from a quota perspective, we prefer education over legislation. To paraphrase, legislation if necessary, but not necessarily legislation. Most of the women executives I have spoken with say they don't want to be looked at as part of a quota system. They want the same opportunities as men, simple as that. There are a number of remedies out there. First, we have to get more women into top-level jobs, and it's happening. This changes the male-dominated culture, and it also creates role models for today's younger women. So corporate cultural change tends to come from the top and work its way down. Second, education and social awareness is key, and we hope that our annual study contributes to that. And third, we need corporate commitment, and we're seeing more and more signs that corporations are becoming more and more in tune with this issue.
I appreciate you coming on with us here. One more thing I wanted to share. You were talking about how, you look up to your mom, and we all do, and this is what your mom told you about females at the very top and what have you. Yep. There's another survey out there, you can find it in moments, which says that many of the top CEOs around the world are mama's boys. They really do honor and look up to and have their mothers as their chief role models.
Well, that's fantastic. Listen, I'm going to look that up, and most importantly, let's assume that they have no prejudice when they're hiring.
I hope not. Jay, thank you very much for the information. Appreciate it very much.
It's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed it.